You ever wake up thinking the day's going to be normal, coffee, lawn check, maybe finally handle that crabgrass you've been swearing at since June, and then end up in a property dispute that spirals into a full-blown civil war? No? Well, welcome to my life in Oakfield Ridge. It started on a Tuesday morning. Sun just peeking over the rooftops. Coffee in hand. Me barefoot on the dew-soaked lawn inspecting a patch of crabgrass that had developed a personal vendetta against me. That's when I saw them, little plastic flags scattered like confetti across my yard. Orange, yellow, blue, utility markings. But here's the thing, I hadn't ordered anything. And I sure as hell hadn't given anyone permission to dig. By noon, 2 unmarked white vans pulled into my driveway. No city insignia. No utility company branding. Just a logo I didn't recognize and a group of guys unloading trenching equipment like they were about to rob Fort Knox through my begonias. Naturally, I walked over. Calm. Polite. Neighborly. "Hey fellas," I said. "Mind telling me what you're doing in my yard?" One of them barely looked at me. Gave me a nod like I was a parking cone with feelings and muttered, "Just following orders, sir." Then he popped in his headphones and walked off. I stared at the fresh gouge they'd already cut through my lawn. That's when I knew, this wasn't just rude. It was suspicious. I came home that evening to find a scar running diagonally across my front yard. Sloppy patch job. Sod laid back like a guilty toddler had tried to cover up a broken lamp. And taped to my front door. Not a letter. Not a formal notice. A sticky note. A literal neon yellow sticky note that said, "Routine HOA infrastructure upgrade. Thanks for your understanding." No name. No signature. No explanation. I called the HOA office. Voicemail. Left a message. Nothing. Emailed. Twice. No reply. Not even one of those automatic "we care about your inquiry" lies. That was strike one. Strike two came when I checked with the city utility department. A cheerful woman named Dana looked up my address. "We don't have any new permits on file, sir," she said. "You sure? Maybe it's part of a neighborhood-wide upgrade?" She double-checked. "Nope. Nothing authorized on your property." Two things became very clear at that moment. One, someone was lying. Two, that someone was likely standing on my lawn, digging trenches into my legal rights. The next morning, I spotted her. Karen, HOA president, clipboard warrior, waddling down the sidewalk in her salmon pink windbreaker like she was Caesar surveying her empire. Permanent sunglasses. Tight ponytail. Expression carved in stone. She smiled when she saw me standing by the trench like we shared a private joke. I wasn't laughing. "Karen," I said, "mind telling me what this is all about?" She didn't even slow down. "Oh. Just a fiber optic line," she chirped. "We're upgrading the neighborhood. Big win for everyone." Without asking, "It's common property. It runs through everyone's yard," she replied. Voice syrupy like I was a child too young to understand big adult words. "Except this yard," I said. Sharp. That's when she dropped the bomb. "You signed the agreement, dear. Everyone in the HOA did." Now here's the twist she didn't know, I never signed anything. My house was the original model home. Built before the HOA even existed. Bought directly from the builder. County confirmed it. Twice. I wasn't under HOA jurisdiction. And she either didn't know, or worse, she didn't care. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I smiled and said, "I'll be looking into it." Then walked away before she could quote some bylaw from her holy scroll of suburban tyranny. But inside? Oh. I was on fire. I spent that night elbow deep in county maps, easement records, zoning permits. What I found was a goldmine of legal violations. No easement. No permit. No right. That trench wasn't just an eyesore, it was an illegal invasion. I didn't grab a shovel just yet, because I like my revenge like I like my bourbon, slow, neat, and served with a twist. So here's what Karen didn't know, and what most clipboard crusaders like her never seem to consider: I don't react. I prepare. The moment I confirmed the trench across my lawn was an illegal installation, no easement, no permit, no jurisdiction, I started documenting like I was building a case for the Supreme Court. I measured the trench depth, 6 inches. Code requires a minimum of 12. I photographed every detail. Sod badly patched. Dirt mounded like someone tried hiding a body. Cable exposed like it was daring me to pull it. And then came the cherry on top, an envelope slid under my front door. This time printed on official HOA letterhead like it had just been delivered from Buckingham Palace. Inside? A polite threat. Dear homeowner. It began. Failure to maintain visual continuity of the landscape post-infrastructure upgrade may result in penalties. Per HOA Charter 4.3. In plain English, they tore up my lawn. And now they were threatening to fine me for not resodding it. You have to admire the audacity. I laughed. Out loud. In my kitchen. Alone. Like a man who had just been dared to go nuclear and already had the launch codes. The next morning, I went full paper trail. No emails. No phone calls. I drove to the county office in person. Dave, the sleepy clerk with a coffee ring on his shirt, handed me everything I needed: stamped plats, recorded deeds, maps with color-coded zoning lines. Yeah, he said, looking over one of the documents. This isn't legal. They didn't file anything. Then he added with a smirk, they're gonna regret that. On my way out, I made a call to my old buddy Jake, who still works in city infrastructure. I asked if he could swing by for a casual inspection. He showed up with a voltage tester, a thermos of burnt coffee, and a grin like this was going to be fun. The test confirmed the cable was live fiber, active, unprotected, and so poorly installed it might as well have been held together with duct tape and dreams. You know, Jake said, crouching by the trench. A few more rainstorms and this thing would have shorted into a fried spaghetti mess. You could have sued just on safety violations. But I wasn't going to sue. I had a better plan. One involving burgers, cold beer, and a 6-foot trench through my front lawn. That Saturday, I threw a backyard barbecue. Just a few close friends, some good music, and the most suspiciously festive landscaping project Oakfield Ridge had ever seen. I marked the cable path with little red flags. Everyone thought I was just being responsible. What are you digging? Someone asked. Beer in hand. Just cleaning up the HOA's mess. I replied with a grin. They said I'm responsible for the lawn. Cue laughter. Cue shovels. Cue righteous vengeance in the form of pulled pork and dirt piles. Around 3 p.m. I hit it. A thick black cable snaking through the earth like a lie trying to stay buried. I followed it with surgical precision, inch by inch, until I found the connection box, half buried under mulch. No lock, no tag. Just a grey metal box sitting there like an uninvited guest. One twist of a wrench later and click, disconnection. I didn't cut it. I'm not a criminal. I removed an illegal object from my property, just like someone might yank out a broken sprinkler head. Clean. Legal. Satisfying. 15 minutes later, the neighborhood's internet died. Not a flicker. Not a lag. It flatlined. I was still flipping burgers when the first text rolled in. Hey man. Is your Wi-Fi down? ? My kid's Zoom class just crashed. Is there an outage or something? And then, the shriek. Karen, sprinting across the lawn in full meltdown mode, flanked by 2 board members and a pair of IT guys with laptops open like they were trying to disarm a digital bomb. She pointed at me like Moses parting the Red Sea. What did you do? I blinked. Sorry. The network. The internet's down. You've disrupted critical infrastructure. I looked at the trench. Then at the grass. Then back at her. I'm just landscaping. You sent me a letter. Said I'm responsible for restoring the lawn. Her face twisted like someone had just slipped her a lemon wedge dipped in vinegar. She sputtered something about vandalism, legal action, consequences. I didn't flinch. Instead, I walked inside and came back with a manila envelope. Inside, printed photos of the trench, a copy of my property deed, city records, and most importantly, an itemized invoice. Lawn restoration, $2.400. Fence post damage, $1.200. Unauthorized construction/property devaluation, $8.400. Total, $12.000. Due in 30 days. Karen stared at the papers, then laughed. You think we're just going to pay you 12 grand? No, I said. Calm as ever. I think you're going to pay me because I can prove you broke the law. That was the moment it clicked. The guys with the laptops stopped typing. The board members stopped nodding. And Karen? She looked like someone had just kicked over her throne. I didn't need to raise my voice. I had proof. And next, I had the county on speed dial. The internet died at exactly 3:47 p.m. I know that because my neighbor's kid came sprinting across the street like the Wi-Fi gods had smited Fortnite from the heavens. My phone lit up with texts. Group chats exploded. And within minutes, Oakfield Ridge had descended into digital silence. But I was humming along to classic rock with a cold drink in one hand and a burger in the other, watching it all unfold like a man who knew this day was coming. And then she arrived. Karen. In full meltdown mode. She stormed across my lawn like she was leading a tactical strike, flanked by two board members who looked increasingly like they regretted all their life choices and a pair of tech brothers with laptops open, walking while typing like the fate of the neighborhood rested on their coding skills. Karen was shouting into her phone, except the phone wasn't working. She held it up like the signal would manifest out of sheer rage. Hello? She shrieked. Can you hear me? She turned to me, fire in her eyes. What did you do? I looked down at the shovel in my hand. Landscaping. The network's down. You've sabotaged critical infrastructure. I was just following your letter, I said, gesturing to the pile of dirt beside the trench. You know, the one about visual continuity. Figured I'd do my part. She froze for a second, like her programming had glitched. Then came the barrage. This is vandalism. This is criminal destruction of HOA property. We're going to sue you. I let her shout. Let her flail her manila folder like it was Excalibur. And when she finally paused for breath, I walked inside, came back, and handed her a different manila envelope, one far more dangerous than hers. It was thick, stamped, tabbed. Inside were copies of my property deed, clearly showing exemption from HOA control, city maps and zoning documents, photos of the illegally buried fiber line, a printout of city code on trench depth violations, and at the very back, an itemized invoice. Karen flipped through the pages, mouth tight, her eyes scanning faster and faster until they landed on the number printed in bold at the bottom. $112.000. She blinked. You're joking. No, I said calmly. I'm billing you for unauthorized use of my land, property damage, devaluation, and illegal construction. Oh, and I've already CC'd the county. Certified mail. Tracking numbers on the back. One of the board members, Greg, I think his name was, took a step forward, looking pale. Wait. We thought the contractor filed the permits. They didn't, I said. And you didn't check. Karen's voice cracked like old veneer. You think we're going to pay you 12 grand? 112. I corrected. Plus legal fees. If you push this to court. I watched it happen in real time, the exact moment Karen realized she wasn't holding the cards anymore. She was bluffing with a losing hand. And I just called her. She spun toward the others, hissing like a leaky radiator. Say something. But they didn't. They just looked down. One of them mumbled, "This wasn't supposed to happen." Karen tried to recover. "You'll regret this. We'll file a claim. We'll go to court." "I'd love that," I said. "Because then we can subpoena your internal HOA communications. You know, The ones that show you ordered this project without permits or approvals. She took a step back like I'd slapped her with a restraining order. Her face, suddenly drained of color, twitched in disbelief. I added, "You might want to check the mail tomorrow. You'll find a letter from the city too. They're already aware." The tech guys started quietly closing their laptops. Karen was unraveling right in front of us, hair frizzing, voice shaking, power slipping through her fingers like sand. "You can't do this. You don't understand the authority we have." "No," I said. "You don't understand the boundaries I'm willing to protect." And just like that, the Queen of Oakfield Ridge retreated, clutching her papers, surrounded by her now terrified board. She stomped off the way she came, with a broken phone, a dead network, and an invoice that was about to become a legal nightmare. What she didn't realize then was that I'd just flipped the board on the entire game. But trust me, the next move, that one was going to bring down the whole damn house. I was resodding the front lawn when the patrol car rolled up, headphones in, classic rock blaring, sweat on my brow, just a man spending his Sunday tending to his yard like a responsible citizen. I didn't even notice the cruiser until a shadow passed over my shovel. 2 officers stepped out. One older, relaxed, coffee in hand. The other looked fresh out of the academy, badge still shining, posture stiff with textbook professionalism. The older one gave me a polite nod. "Morning. Are you the homeowner?" I pulled my earbuds out, not surprised in the slightest. "I am." Before he could speak again, a screech echoed down the street. Enter Karen, marching with the fury of 1,000 bylaws. She charged down the sidewalk flanked by 2 exhausted-looking board members. She clutched a manila folder like it was a holy relic and began unleashing her greatest performance yet. "He destroyed essential infrastructure," she howled. "He ripped out critical utilities. This man is endangering the community." The younger cop looked like he'd just walked into a domestic dispute over sprinklers. The older officer, let's call him Officer Reyes, took a long sip of his coffee, turned back to me and said, "Mind telling us your side?" I handed him another envelope, because of course I had one prepared. Inside, my deed, showing I'm not part of the HOA, county maps, my full email chain with the HOA, all ignored, permitting records from the city, none filed, photos of the trench, measurements, time-stamped, GPS tagged, a friendly printout of municipal codes for utility installations. Officer Reyes flipped through it slowly, nodding. "So, you're not part of the HOA?" "Nope. Never have been. House is grandfathered. They've been pretending I am." "And this cable was installed without your permission?" "Correct. And illegally. They didn't even bury it to code." Karen cut in like a mosquito in a courtroom. "This is absurd. That land is part of the shared community." I raised an eyebrow. "Karen, do you even know what an easement is?" The younger cop leaned toward her. "Mom, do you have a permit for the installation?" She blinked. "The contractor was supposed to file, but did you file anything with the city?" Reyes asked. Silence. One of the board members cleared his throat. "We assumed it was covered under neighborhood improvement exemptions." Reyes gave him a look that could scrape paint off a wall. "Assumptions aren't permits." And that was it. The tide turned in 5 words. Reyes handed Karen back her folder like it was radioactive and calmly stated that, from what they could see, I had every legal right to remove unauthorized equipment from my property. He even warned her, politely, that continuing to pursue this could result in fines against the HOA. Karen went pale, like she'd just realized the Queen's crown was plastic and the castle was made of lies. She mumbled something about contacting legal counsel and stomped off, her little board shuffling after her like kids who'd just been told recess was cancelled. But it wasn't over, because 3 days later, I got a letter from a law firm across town, a cease and desist, accusing me of willful destruction of essential HOA infrastructure, demanding payment, threatening legal action. It was the legal equivalent of a toddler banging a spoon on a high chair, loud, messy, and absolutely pointless. I didn't even reply. My lawyer buddy did. He drafted a response that was professional, meticulous, and just petty enough to twist the knife. We included everything again, plus a reminder that if they proceeded to court, we'd be happy to initiate discovery. That meant depositions. That meant financial records. That meant every HOA board member having to answer, under oath, why they approved an illegal trench. Then came the fun part. A week later, a neighborhood-wide meeting notice landed in everyone's mailbox. Emergency session. Full community invited. Topic: infrastructure issues and board transparency. Translation: damage control. I went. Not because I cared. Because I wanted to watch the implosion live. The community center was packed. People who hadn't attended a single meeting in years now sat with crossed arms and questions. Lots of them. Why is my internet still down? Who approved the trench? Why didn't we know about this? Karen tried her usual spin: unprecedented setbacks, logistical miscommunications, temporary inconvenience. But the mask was cracking. Then came the kill shot. A guy in the back, older man, ball cap, calm voice, stood up and said, "I checked my property records. Turns out, like this gentleman here," he pointed at me, "I'm not even legally under the HOA." Silence. A woman near the front raised her hand. "Same here." Another added, "We were never told any of this." And just like that, the entire illusion collapsed. Turns out a whole section of homes, built before the HOA was legally formed, had been bluffed into membership they never agreed to. No signatures. No binding contracts. Just years of assuming Karen's rules were law. By the time the meeting ended, the room was a riot of questions and accusations. Karen was cornered. Sweating. Red-faced. Mumbled something about needing to reassess her position. 2 days later, she resigned. Officially? Personal reasons. Reality? Her little empire just crumbled beneath her clipboard. I thought it was over. Karen was gone. The board was shattered. And the HOA had gone quieter than a church mouse caught in a confession. The $112,000 check arrived by certified mail. No apology. No note. Just a clean acknowledgement that they knew they lost. I thought, maybe, just maybe, peace had returned to Oakfield Ridge. Until one afternoon, I came home to find them back. Different crew. Same gear. Same trenching flags popping up in my yard like neon mushrooms after a thunderstorm. At first, I thought it was a prank. Or maybe some rogue contractor hadn't gotten the memo. But no, this was real. Real digging. Real fiber optic lines. Real audacity. I stormed out to the yard. "Can I help you?" The man in charge didn't look up. "Just reinstalling fiber. For the HOA's new easement agreement." I laughed. Not a chuckle. A full chest rumbling. "You have got to be kidding me." Laugh. "What easement agreement?" I asked. He paused. I'm just following orders." I asked to see the permit. He couldn't provide one. Asked for a supervisor's contact. He handed me a number that went straight to voicemail. That was their new game: set precedent. Reinstall it quietly. Let it sit. Let it blend into the landscape. Then claim it's essential infrastructure later and back it up with a made-up rule. A play right out of Karen's war manual. Unfortunately for them, I wasn't built for erosion. I was built for escalation. So, I waited. Watched them dig. Let them lay cable. Let them smile like they'd gotten away with something. Then I made 2 calls. First, to Jake, my friend in city compliance. He was at my driveway within 2 hours with a municipal inspector badge and a clipboard. One look at the trench depth and cable specs, and he was jotting violations like it was a Black Friday sale. Still no permits filed. No easement. Cable buried 6 inches instead of 12. Poor insulation. Moisture exposure risk, he said, shaking his head. They've learned absolutely nothing. Second, I called my lawyer friend. We drafted a new letter, harsher this time. It detailed repeated trespassing, attempted fraud through fabricated easement claims, municipal violations, intentional reinstallation of unauthorized infrastructure, and we included a new invoice. $4,800, removal, resodding, soil contamination, and stress-induced bourbon expenses. Okay. The last one was a joke. Maybe. We gave them 72 hours to comply or face a civil lawsuit. No reply. Until the third day. That's when Carla showed up, the new HOA president. She wasn't wearing a salmon pink windbreaker. No clipboard. No army of sycophants. Just a woman in her early 40s. Nervously holding an envelope and a look that said, "I've inherited a kingdom built out of trash." "I'm Carla," she said. "I'm so sorry." She handed me a check. $4,800. No negotiation. No protest. Paid in full. This was mishandled. All of it. The board's been restructured. We've implemented oversight, legal reviews, and communication protocols. I just want to make this right. I nodded, took the check, and handed her a notarized letter of my own, prepped in advance. It stated, "No infrastructure may be installed on my property without written, signed, notarized consent. Any future attempt would result in immediate legal action. I would never, under any circumstances, acknowledge HOA jurisdiction, retroactively or otherwise." She read it, didn't argue, just nodded, apologized again, and left. And that was the end. The trench was gone. The cable was removed. And the HOA, stripped of its queen and her fantasy empire, was finally back to doing what it was supposed to do, minding its own damn business. Now, sometimes neighbors still stop me. They ask how I did it. Not the legal gymnastics, that part they get. They mean the nerve, the stubbornness, the gall to stand up and say, "No. Not on my lawn." And honestly, it wasn't about being brave. It was about principle. Because when someone digs through your property without asking, fines you for not cleaning up their mess, and tries to legally gaslight you into submission, you don't just fight back. You make them pay for the shovel. And every time I look at that stretch of grass, clean, green, and mine, I remember that some boundaries aren't just physical. They're personal. And they're worth defending.